Between pre-K and 12th grade, the average student living in America takes about 112 mandatory standardized exams. A lot of valuable classroom time in school is taken away in order for students to take standardized tests. This time could be used for much more productive things such as lessons, lectures, or projects. The classroom time being taken away from tests is not the only problem with standardized tests. Standardized tests often block students' creativity, cause students to be simply uninterested in certain classes, and can be detrimental to some students' grades who may know the material and may not be a good test taker. High schools, specifically in the United States, tend to give out too many standardized tests, to the point where they are not beneficial. If every student takes the same standardized tests, then that means each student must know the same material. Some students do not do well on tests because they are simply uninterested in the material. If students were allowed to pick from at least some variety of material and learn in a way that is beneficial specifically to them, then they would most likely do better than if they were restricted to one topic they have to learn in one specific ways. In recent years, researchers have begun to build a science of interest, investigating what interest is, how interest develops, and what makes things interesting, and how we can cultivate interest in ourselves and others. They are finding that interest can help us think more clearly, understand more deeply, and remember more accurately. This quote explains exactly how students learn better when they're interested in something than when there is something that they're not interested in. For a student to learn their best, they must have a variety of things to learn from in order to excel. When standardized tests are what most affects students' grades, then that is what the teacher's lessons must be geared towards in order for students to do well on the test. This means teachers have quite a slim variety in what they can teach. This can cause students to be closed-minded about what they learn. Making students learn material just for the test is like bringing a kid to a candy shop and choosing one candy for them while they watch. When students are forced to learn a very slim range of material, they are unable to expand their horizons to more creative things. Although standardized tests may be a good way to see where students are in a fair way, others could argue that not even tests are fair because some students are just naturally bad at taking tests. A quote by Annie Murphy-Paul explains how and why students are better at taking tests than others. Anxiety is a prominent factor that demonstrates many students' inability to perform well on tests. The problem is this anxiety can affect the students' working memory capacity, and much of their brain power goes towards the anxiety rather than answers needed for the test. This quote describes how anxiety can be the difference between a good and a bad test taker. Because all students are different, all of them have different levels of anxiety, making them take tests easier than others. Having some students better take tests than others means students that know the material just as well as each other may have different grades simply because one is better at taking tests. Standardized tests are not beneficial. They suck the creativity out of kids like a vacuum on dust. Standardized tests are not beneficial. They can cause some students' grades to be negatively affected. Standardized tests are not beneficial. They can cause students to lose interest in school, and overall, the negatives of standardized tests far outweigh the positives.